A racist cop arrests Steph Curry's mother over nothing, unaware that he just made the biggest mistake of his life. Handcuffed, humiliated for what? A parking space. But Steph isn't here for revenge. He's here to make sure this never happens again. And when a giant fights for justice, the whole world watches. Before we deep dive into this interesting story, subscribe to our channel and tell us where you're watching from. Share in the comments below. The sun blazed over Charlotte, North Carolina, on a Thursday afternoon thick with humidity, the kind that clung to your skin and made every breath feel heavy. Sonia Curry pulled her white Lexus SUV into the Whole Foods parking lot on Fairview Road, easing it into a spot near the entrance. At 58, she was a woman who wore strength like a second skin, petite but unyielding, her dark hair swept back, sunglasses perched atop her head, and a light cardigan draped over her shoulders. She stepped out, heels clicking against the shimmering asphalt, her purse slung over one arm. Her mission was simple: pick up some kale, almond milk, and maybe a dark chocolate bar for her grandkids. A routine errand on a routine day. But routine has a way of shattering when the wrong eyes are watching, and today those eyes belong to a man with a badge and a grudge. Officer Travis Keene slouched in his patrol car at the far end of the lot, a crumpled coffee cup in his hand, sweat beading on his forehead. He was 39, wiry and weathered, with a buzz cut and a squint that made him look like he was always sizing up a fight. 10 years with the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department had turned him into a walking coil of resentment, a man who saw the world through a lens of us and them. Charlotte was changing, new money, new faces, people who didn't fit his faded blueprint of order, and he hated it. Sonia caught his eye the moment her door opened. The Lexus, the way she moved, too polished, too confident, set his teeth on edge. He didn't know her, didn't need to. In his mind, she was already out of place, and when he saw her tire nudge just over the parking line, he had his opening. He tossed the cup aside, grabbed his radio and barked into it. Dispatch Unit 12. Checking a parking violation, Whole Foods on Fairview. Stand by. He didn't wait for a reply. This was his turf, his rules. He stepped out, boots crunching gravel, his shadow stretching long as he closed the distance. Sonia was halfway to the sliding doors when his voice sliced through the muggy air. Ma'am? Stop right there. It was sharp, commanding, laced with an authority he hadn't earned. She paused, turning slowly, her sunglasses slipping down to meet his gaze. Yes, officer? Her voice was calm, measured, the tone of a woman who'd raised 3 black kids in America, who'd taught them how to navigate moments just like this. Keene strode up, hand resting near his holster, not a threat yet, but a hint. You're parked over the line, he said, jabbing a finger at her SUV. That's a violation. Sonia glanced back. The tire barely kissed the next space, not enough to block anyone. It's not an issue. I can move it if you'd like. I didn't ask for your opinion, he snapped, stepping closer. I need your ID. Now. The air thickened. Sonia's jaw tightened, but she held steady. She'd been here before, not in cuffs, not yet, but in those quiet, tense moments where power flexed just to see if you'd bend. She reached into her purse, slow and deliberate, pulling out her driver's license. Keene snatched it, scanning the name, Sonia Curry. It meant nothing to him. He didn't follow basketball, didn't care about the Warriors or three-pointers. To him, she was just another target. You from around here? He asked, his tone dripping with suspicion, flipping her ID between his fingers like it was a toy. I live nearby, she said, her patience fraying but her voice still even. Figures, he muttered, loud enough to sting. Sonia's eyes narrowed. She knew that word, that tone, the quiet venom of you don't belong. Excuse me, she said, her head tilting just enough to challenge him. Keene smirked, sensing resistance. People passing through don't always respect the rules. People like me? Sonia's voice sharpened, cutting through his bravado. A few bystanders, a mom with a stroller, a guy unloading groceries, slowed, heads turning. A teenage girl pulled out her phone, the lens glinting in the sun. You heard me, Keene said, stepping into her space. Let's not make this a scene. Step over to my car, I need to run this. Sonia held his gaze. You have my ID. You can run it right here. His smirk faded, replaced by a cold glint. I said move. Unless you're refusing to comply. The word comply landed like a brick, heavy with threat. Sonia exhaled, weighing her options. She knew the stories, names like Sandra Bland, Breonna Taylor, etched into her memory like scars. She wasn't scared, not yet, but she was tired. Tired of this dance. I'll wait here, she said, firm and unyielding. Keene's jaw clenched. Turn around, he barked, his hand darting to his cuffs. You're making this difficult. Difficult. Sonia's voice rose, incredulous. I'm standing in a parking lot. Turn around. His tone was steel now, and before she could respond, he grabbed her wrist, yanking it behind her back. The crowd gasped. Sonia's purse hit the ground, spilling keys and a pack of gum. Cold metal snapped around her wrists, handcuffs for an inch over a line, for daring to question him. Let go of me, she said, her voice steady despite the jolt of pain in her shoulder. You're resisting, Keen growled, tightening the cuffs. The teenage girl, braces flashing as she bit her lip, filmed it all, her hands trembling as the lens caught his sneer, Sonia's defiance. You don't know what you're doing, a man in the crowd shouted, his voice shaking with disbelief. Keen didn't hear, or didn't care. In his mind she was nobody. Just another black woman who needed to be taught a lesson. He had no idea he'd just handcuffed Steph Curry's mother. No idea the avalanche he'd triggered. Across the country, in a sleek gym overlooking the San Francisco Bay, Stephen Curry sank a three-pointer, the ball swishing through the net with that familiar, satisfying thud. At 37 he was still a marvel, 6 feet 3 inches of lean muscle, a quiet storm on the court, his baby face masking the killer instinct that had won him 2 MVPs for championships and a permanent spot in basketball's pantheon. He was mid-workout, sweat beading on his forehead, his trainer calling out drills when his phone buzzed on the bench. He ignored it at first, focus was his superpower, but it buzzed again. Then again. A third time. Something was wrong. He jogged over, wiping his hands on his shorts, and picked it up. Missed calls from his sister Siddle, a text from his wife Aisha. Call me ASAP. Then a link from his teammate Draymond Green. Yo, check this now. Steph tapped it and the gym fell away. The video was shaky, filmed on a phone, but clear enough to stop his heart. His mother, Sonia, stood in a parking lot, hands cuffed behind her back, a cop gripping her arm. She wasn't yelling, wasn't fighting, just standing tall, her face a mask of steel. But Steph saw it, the tension in her shoulders, the humiliation she refused to show. The cop, smirking, smug, tugged her toward a squad car. Steph's breath caught, his heart slamming against his ribs as rage ignited in his chest, a fire he hadn't felt since his rookie days facing doubters. Steph, his trainer called, noticing the shift. You all right? He didn't answer. The weights, the hoops, the chatter, all gone. He was already moving, phone pressed to his ear, calling Siddle. What the hell happened? He demanded when she picked up. Some cop arrested Mom, Siddle said, her voice tight with anger and worry. Over nothing, a parking spot. It's blowing up online. Steph's vision blurred. Where is she? Charlotte PD. They've got her at the station. I'm on my way, he said, hanging up. He grabbed his keys, his mind racing. This wasn't about fame or headlines. This was his mother, the woman who'd raised him, who'd taught him faith and fight, who'd been his anchor through every storm. Someone had put hands on her, and they were about to learn who they'd crossed. He called his agent next, voice low and clipped. Give me a jet to Charlotte. Now. Within an hour he was airborne, the Bay Area shrinking beneath him as the plane cut through the sky. His phone buzzed nonstop, texts from teammates, calls from his dad Dell, notifications piling up as the video spread. But he didn't look. His focus was singular, get to her. Back in Charlotte, the Whole Foods parking lot had turned into a circus. The teenage girl who'd filmed it, her name was Jada, uploaded the video with a caption, "This ain't right." For what? Within minutes, it had hundreds of retweets, then thousands. Then someone recognized Sonia. That's Steph Curry's mom. The internet detonated. Arresting a black woman over a parking spot, and it's Sonia Curry? This cop's career is toast. Hashtags flared, hashtag justice for Sonia, hashtag end police abuse. By the time Keen shoved Sonia into the back of his squad car, the clip had hit 1 million views. Sonia sat in a holding room at the Charlotte PD station, hands free now but her wrists still red from the cuffs. She was calm, eerily so, her purse back in her lap, her posture straight as an arrow. She'd been through worse, raised 3 kids through worse, but this stung deeper. Not the cuffs, not the crowd, but the why. She knew the why. She'd always known. Being black in America wasn't a history lesson. It was her life, her kids' lives, every damn day. And today it had come for her again. The station buzzed with nervous energy. Officers whispered, glancing at the TV in the corner where local news had picked up the story. Video of an altercation in a Charlotte parking lot goes viral. Reports suggest the woman involved is Sonia Curry, mother of NBA star Stephen Curry. The desk sergeant, a young guy with a patchy beard, kept stealing looks at the holding room door, knowing something big was brewing. Steph landed at Charlotte Douglas International 3 hours later, a black SUV waiting on the tarmac. He climbed in, jaw tight, eyes fixed ahead as the driver sped toward the station. His phone lit up again. LeBron James had tweeted, "This is bigger than basketball. Sonya Curry deserves justice." ESPN was running the clip on loop. Protesters were already gathering outside the precinct, signs reading, "Protect Black Mothers," and "Fire the Cop." But Steph didn't care about the noise. He cared about her. He strode into the station, all 6 feet 3 inches of him radiating a quiet fury that made the room shrink. Heads turned, officers, clerks, a janitor with a mop, all frozen. Steph wasn't in his Warriors jersey, just a hoodie and jeans, but his presence was unmistakable. The desk sergeant stood, stammering. "Mr. Curry, can I? Where's my mother?" Steph's voice was low, controlled, but it cut through the hum like a knife. "She's, back there," the sergeant said, pointing to a hallway. "We're processing her release, no charges." Processing? Steph stepped closer, his eyes locking onto the man's. "She shouldn't be here." Before the sergeant could fumble a reply, Keene walked in from a side door, oblivious, mid-laugh with another officer. He stopped short when he saw Steph, his smirk fading as the air shifted. "What's going on?" Keene asked, crossing his arms. Steph turned, slow and deliberate, his gaze pinning Keene like a spotlight. "You tell me? You're the one who arrested my mother." Keene blinked, recognition dawning too late. "Your mother?" His voice faltered, but he doubled down. "She didn't comply. It's procedure." "Procedure?" Steph took a step forward, his calm cracking just enough to show the fire beneath. "You handcuffed her over a parking space. That's your procedure?" Keene shifted, bravado slipping. "She got defensive." "She's 58 years old," Steph cut in, his voice rising. "What threat was she to you?" The room went silent, the weight of Steph's words sinking in. Keene opened his mouth but nothing came out. A senior officer, Lieutenant Brooks, rushed in, hands raised. "Mr. Curry, let's talk in my office. Your mother's free to go, no charges." Steph didn't budge. "I'm not leaving without her." Brooks nodded, gesturing down the hall. "This way." Steph followed, his footsteps heavy until he saw her. Sonya sat in a chair, composed as ever, but her eyes softened when they met his. "Took you long enough," she said with a faint smile. "Mom," he breathed, kneeling beside her, taking her hands. "You okay?" "I'm fine, baby," she said, squeezing back. "They can't break me." They couldn't. But that didn't mean they wouldn't pay. The fallout was seismic. The video hit every platform, Twitter, TikTok, ESPN, fueling outrage from fans, players, and activists. LeBron's tweet went viral. Kevin Durant posted, "This is why we speak out." Protesters swelled outside the station, chanting Sonya's name, their voices echoing off the brick walls. News vans rolled in, cameras flashing as the Charlotte PD scrambled to contain the mess. Steph didn't waste time. He sat with his team, lawyers, his agent Aisha, civil rights leaders, plotting not just a response but a movement. "This isn't about me or Mom," he said, his voice steady in a hotel conference room that night. "It's about every family this happens to." Keene was suspended within 48 hours, an internal review announced, but the pressure didn't let up. Old complaints surfaced, racial profiling, excessive force, a pattern the department couldn't bury. Social media dug deeper, unearthing stories from black drivers Keene had harassed. A 22-year-old pulled over for suspicious driving that turned out to be a lie. An elderly man followed home for no reason. The public's fury grew, a tidal wave crashing against the precinct's flimsy defenses. Steph went public 3 days later, standing at a podium in downtown Charlotte, his family behind him. Sonya, Dell, Siddle, Seth, Aisha, the kids. Cameras rolled, the crowd hushed. "My mom taught me to use my voice," he said, his tone calm but resolute. "I'm using it now. What happened to her was wrong. Wrong because she's my mother, but wrong because it happens every day to people who don't have a platform. We need reform, real change, so no one else's mother, father, sister, brother goes through this." He paused, letting the words sink in, the crowd hanging on every syllable. "I'm launching the Sonya Curry Justice Initiative, millions pledged to legal aid for profiling victims, to retraining cops, to building systems that protect, not punish. This isn't about one officer. It's about a system that lets this happen. And we're going to fix it." The room erupted, applause, questions, flashes, but Steph wasn't done. "Officer Keene's actions weren't a mistake," he said, his voice hardening. "They were a choice. And choices have consequences." The impact was immediate. Donations poured into the initiative, NBA players, tech moguls, everyday fans. The Warriors pledged $1 million. Nike matched it. Hashtags trended worldwide. Hashtag Sonia Strong, hashtag Curry for Justice. Protests spread beyond Charlotte, Atlanta, Oakland, Chicago, people marching with signs that read, "If it can happen to Sonia, it can happen to anyone." Keene was fired 2 weeks later, his badge stripped after a thorough investigation that couldn't outrun the evidence. The video, the complaints, the witnesses stepping forward. The department issued a sterile statement, violations of policy, failure to uphold standards. But the truth was rawer. He was a racist cop who'd finally been caught. The public cheered, but Steph knew one firing wasn't the end. It was a spark. Back at Sonia's house, the chaos simmered down to a quiet evening. Steph sat on her couch, the kids asleep upstairs, Aisha beside him, Sonia across the room sipping tea. The TV murmured in the background, CNN dissecting the day's developments, but Sonia muted it, her eyes on her son. "You didn't have to fly across the country for me," she said, her tone teasing but warm. "Yes, I did," Steph replied, his voice soft but firm. "You're my mom." She smiled, setting her cup down. "I'm proud of you, Stephen. Not for the money or the fame, for this. For standing up." "It's not enough yet," he said, rubbing his hands together, a habit when he was deep in thought. "One cop's gone, but the system's still there." "It's a start," she said, leaning forward. "You know what I always told you? Faith and action. You're doing both." He nodded, but his mind was already racing ahead. The initiative was just the beginning: legal battles, policy pushes, community programs. He'd called lawmakers that morning, met with activists that afternoon. This wasn't a moment, it was a mission. Weeks turned to months and the ripples kept spreading. The Sonia Curry Justice Initiative funded lawsuits for profiling victims. Dozens at first, then hundreds, winning settlements that forced departments to rewrite training manuals. Steph testified before a state Senate committee, his voice steady as he recounted his mother's story, linking it to data. Black drivers stopped 3 times more than white ones, black women twice as likely to face excessive force. The room listened, lawmakers shifting uncomfortably as he laid out the stakes. Charlotte PD overhauled its policies. Mandatory body cams, bias training, a civilian review board, under pressure from protests and Steph's relentless spotlight. Other cities followed, a domino effect sparked by one parking lot, one video, one son's refusal to stay silent. Keene faded into obscurity, his name a cautionary tale whispered in precincts nationwide. But the real story wasn't his fall, it was the rise of something bigger. The initiative built community centers in underserved neighborhoods, places where kids like Steph once was could shoot hoops and dream without fear. Scholarships sent black students to law school, their eyes on reforming a system from within. One evening 8 months later, Steph sat on Sonia's back porch, the sky bruising purple as dusk settled. She joined him, a blanket over her shoulders, 2 mugs of tea in her hands. She handed him one, sitting beside him in comfortable silence. "You ever think about how this started?" she asked, her voice soft. "All the time," he said, staring at the horizon. "A parking space. Crazy." She chuckled, then grew serious. "I used to worry about you, all of you. Not because of basketball or fame, but because I knew no matter how high you climbed, you'd still be black in America." Steph swallowed, the weight of her words settling in his chest. He'd always known that truth, felt it in the stares, the whispers, the extra scrutiny. But hearing it from her hit different. "But you took that," she continued, "and turned it into something powerful. That's your gift, Stephen, not the shooting, not the rings. This." He didn't reply right away, just reached over and squeezed her hand. The fight wasn't over, laws still lagged, biases still festered, stories like Sonia's still happened. But tonight, in this quiet moment, there was peace. There was hope. The legacy of that Thursday afternoon stretched far beyond Charlotte. The video became a touchstone, replayed in classrooms, cited in courtrooms, a rallying cry for a generation tired of waiting. Steph's voice grew louder, his platform wider, but he never forgot the root. His mother, standing tall in a parking lot, refusing to break. Injustice doesn't end with one victory, it ends when we refuse to look away. What happened to Sonia Curry was a reminder that power isn't just in the hands of the famous, but in the voices of the people. What would you do if this was your mother, your sister, your family? The fight isn't over. Let's keep it going.